What's going on, everyone? We're live. Welcome to the Omnibus Collectors Network. This is our manga show, our bi-weekly segment tonight. I am joined with a couple of really awesome guys. To the side of me over that way is my good friend Mango. What's going on, dude?
What's up, Riley? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too,
And
bro.
below us down here is none other than Gio from A Week in Geekdom. How's it going, dude?
Doing pretty well. Rough day, but you know we're here to under the circumstances have a good time with everybody in the chat, everybody watching later on, and just be a little beacon of positivity on such a crappy day. I wish it were under better circumstances that we're gathered here. I had plans for a different type of show, but you know it is what it is.
I think it feels right to on the day that it just happenstance that everything happened like the night before, and my wife actually was like, so what are y'all going to be talking about on the show tomorrow? I'm like, well, I think I know what we're going to be talking about. But we will be celebrating the life of Kentaro Miura, his works, of course, most notably Berserk, as well as anything else. And trying to provide a positive and fun environment for people to join in. If you're in the chat, talk amongst yourselves, talk to us, be amongst people who are grieving just like you are, but at the same time, we lift each other up.
Amen to
that. Before we get started, we always give big thanks to our sponsor on this show, InStockTrades.com. InStockTrades.com, where you can order all of your manga and comics for up to 50% off, 2% loyalty discounts if you order within 8 days of your previous order, free shipping in the US after $50, and all those other things, kind of like slipping my mind what we need to, all the bullet points for the ad right now. But thank you to InStockTrades.com, of course, as always. And at the end of the month, they give us a $50 gift certificate to give out to a lucky viewer. So that should be coming next week, I believe.
On the 31st, which will be Monday. So that Monday, everybody has a chance to get a $50 free gift card. Anywhere in the world can participate. You just got to tune in that Monday, last of the month.
All right. So there we go. That's our sponsor. And we love them and we thank them. So,
yeah.
All right. How are you guys feeling? How y'all feeling with this happening?
I don't know, man. This is it's pretty unreal to think that
it's kind of an uncharted waters situation, because unfortunately a lot of people we think of that scenario because of the nature of the beast of the manga industry, and we don't like it when things like that actually happen, and it happened a couple of weeks ago.
And it did. It was on the 6th, I believe, is what they said when he had passed, and it I believe his family had a private service, and then it wasn't until for me, I guess it was late last night that that the news was broken by Young Animal, who is the magazine that the series had been published in. And just, immediately when it was, Alex, Sherlock texted me. He texted me an image of the tweet, and my heart just like sank. I was like, that it's one of those things where you think that can't be real. And it was a very similar reaction that I had whenever we found out that Chadwick Boseman had died. Because it just seemed so out of nowhere. There's so many parallels in how I was feeling in that situation, because both of them were young. Chadwick was in his 40s. Kentaro Miura he was 54. And they were both going through things that the public were not aware of. And it just is a real punch in the gut, a real slap in the face when you find out about that. And I know, like, pretty much everyone at some point has made some sort of a joke about, like, or a comment about, man, if he'd just stop playing around with his RPGs or playing around with the idle games or whatever, then we'd get more stuff. When in reality, it's something a little bit, a little deeper than that was what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. It's very easy to read your favorite book, comic, manga, whatever it is, and sort of not put a face on what you're consuming, and you just
For sure.
enjoying the story, and you don't think about the effort and sacrifices that people go through to make that stuff happen that you're enjoying with your book in hand and all that stuff.
It's and it's definitely important. Like, this is one of those, just smack in the face moments that you learn from, in that we have to respect when creators need to take the time for themselves, for their health, whether it be physical or mental, when they're working on things. And a lot of, it seems, the reason for a lot of the delays and the hiatus that happened were in reaction to health issues. And I know that was true and has been true for Togashi with Hunter x Hunter. He very commonly has stated, I'm having health issues, I need to take off. And Oda has had smaller health issues as well. I know that, Jump will have notifications go out saying, like, due to Oda or other creators. It's happened, I think, Akutami with Jujutsu Kaisen just a couple months ago. They had a week where there was no chapter because of health issue.
Yeah, I think they took like a solid 3 weeks of just rest.
Oh, wow.
Which, as a weekly consumer of Jujutsu Kaisen, I was like, damn, when is it coming back? But then it shouldn't take something like this to put into perspective that these people are people that need to take care of themselves as well, because the grind of a manga artist, there's I don't know if you guys heard about that story that Masashi Kishimoto has told, where he got married halfway through Naruto, and he didn't even take his honeymoon until after Naruto had ended. Like,
God,
volumes and hundreds of chapters later, man. Like, he got married around volume 25. He didn't get to go on his honeymoon until after volume 70 of Naruto.
Jesus.
Which puts into perspective just like how much these people actually grind to, tell their stories.
Oh, yeah. And I know it's like the nature of the beast, because it's a lot of the expectation and the culture over there. And there's not much that we can do as consumers across the globe or anything, but at the very least, I expect that anyone who loves and appreciates these works would respect the fact when these people have to take these breaks. And like you said, when I don't keep up with Jujutsu Kaisen weekly, so I wasn't impacted by that like 3-week break, but you do get lost in that. You get to the point where you're like, man, can we just get another chapter already? Like, Oda usually does like 3 per month instead of 4. Like, he usually has a week off at each month,
which is well deserved. The man has put in more than enough of his fair share of the work,
Oh, for sure. But like, they end on a cliffhanger. I'm like, man, we got an off week next week. Dang it. But like, over time, I've learned, to respect that fact and respect that, because really early when I was reading Hunter x Hunter, when it first started getting published in the US, like when I was in high school, I was aware of the delays and stuff. I was aware that the chapters were coming out slower in Japan, because I had a friend who was reading it as it came out, and he's like, yeah, they're on another hiatus right now. He's got some health issues. And I was like, dang, man. So I became aware that was a thing really early in my like life of reading manga and stuff. And I guess like, it helped me to be able to put it in perspective, just having that in my mind for such a long time. But it's really sad that like I was inspired to post 2 separate TikToks just on that fact today, where I said specifically, we need to respect these creators when they need the time off. When they say they need it, we need to respect that they need it. And I said it one time because Alex had sent me screenshots of like all the different times that Miura had said something in like comments and stuff on the books, I guess, about his health and like lack of sleep and how long it's been since he's had a full day off and all that kind of stuff. And then again, I made another one because he sent me a tweet from Yukimura from Vinland Saga saying, everyone's reaching out to me and saying, keep your health and stuff. And he's like, I'm so shocked about Miura's passing, and I promise I'll do my best to take care of myself. And so I posted videos on both of those things saying like, please respect these creators. They're giving us gifts of stories that we love, that impact us. And we don't want for them to reach a fate like this. This is a horrible fate. And I don't want to sit here and focus on just like, oh, the work that they did is all that I care, because that's not it. It's a person. It's someone that, you know, you form this bond with through their work. And a lot of people I've seen commenting on my video that I put up last night on YouTube pretty late, and on my TikTok, stating like it felt like they lost a friend.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yes.
I was recording a video and I saw that Filippo was calling me on like a phone call, and I was like, that's weird. He doesn't do that. The first thing he says when I pick up is Miura is dead, and I was like, I just like threw my phone on the desk. I was like, no, you got to be kidding. There's no way that this is happening. Yeah. It's devastating, dude. Like you said, it felt like losing your buddy, and I've never met the man, but like Berserk has been. I'm in a similar situation to you, Riley. Like you said in your YouTube video, I didn't discover Berserk until maybe like 4 years ago. But in those 4 years, it became like a gold standard for what dark fantasy can and should be. Yeah. And it really sucks that, you know, our boy, you know, got taken from us so early.
Yep. And it's so personal of a work too, and I think that's a lot of why you feel that just very personal connection with the creator, even though it's someone that none of us have met. You feel like you feel like you lost a family member. You feel like, you know, it felt like when I lost some of my friends, it was someone that I had this attachment to, even though I hadn't met him, I hadn't talked to him, he didn't know that I existed, but like, so this is such a deeply personal work, delving into so many very deep ideas and thoughts that it's impossible to not get connected in that way, you know?
Yeah. And that's the power of the medium, that you can write that and reach the hearts of so many readers worldwide for so many years. I knew about Berserk in the 90s because of the anime. But I hadn't started reading the manga. I started in 2016 or 17, something like that. And you quickly get it. You immerse yourself into his creations and sort of this magical ability that he had to. And I read it somewhere online. I can't remember what or where. That he believed that manga panels are sort of like, when you're looking at them, they're like portals to another world, and he just embodied the ethic and the style and what it meant to be a mangaka and writing these wonderful stories that we're going to talk about in a second here. So I definitely feel that when somebody passes in such a dramatic, sad fashion. I mean, if you were to tell me like he was 70 or 80 and his health was declining or something like that, but it's and I've experienced this in the past recently, to have something taken away from you so suddenly, it shocks you, and you that reverb comes back at you and you don't know how to process things. There are a lot of uncertainties, and it's just a really sad situation all around for his family, for his fans, for the international fans, for everybody. But I do take comfort in the fact that he genuinely he sounded like the greatest guy, and he really cared for his staff and family and friends. And I take comfort in knowing that he was beloved worldwide, and I would like to think that he knew that. That even though he was given it his all, he knew that his work meant a lot to people worldwide.
Yeah, there's a lot to take out of it. There's so much. Like, I remember the first time I actually heard about Berserk was from an AMV Hell video. And it was one of the little AMVs where they matched. I don't remember where the sound was, but it was to the 97 Berserk anime. And there was a few clips in there. And I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what the series was. But a friend of mine in high school, he was reading it. And So he's like, oh yeah, that's Berserk, and he like explained a little bit to me about it, and I never really had much interest in it because it seemed too dark for me, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like, and skip ahead, like I had preconceived notions, you know, and skip ahead years, like very long, until finally like seeing so many people that we know, friends of ours, who are reading it, you know, Omar talking about how great it is, Luis talking about how great it is, like all these different people who were getting into it or had been into the series. And I was like, you know what, I think it's finally time. And then I know that I invested in a lot of people around that same time, invested into getting into it, you know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. And I was so surprised at the absolute depth behind it that I didn't expect. I was expecting dark fantasy, just like, you know, big sword cut dragon in half, blood everywhere type stuff. And like, yeah, there's a lot of that, but the depth behind it, and so much like of the message, and what has really been carrying me through, and what I've been trying to translate in a lot of my statements, and to myself in a lot of what I've been thinking, was to take what a lot of the point of his series was, which was learning to express your emotions, not holding things in, being healthy. It was a lot about, you know, Guts dealing with his PTSD, about everything that's happened to him, and learning how to healthily express yourself and deal with your emotions and deal with your problems. And so that's why I like, at midnight last night, I was like, I have to, in order to express myself in the best, most healthy way I know, I have to talk to someone, even if that someone is my camera. And so I sat down and I made a video and I posted it on the internet, and then I went to bed. I just had to get it out of my head. And that, it's just something that I feel like I took that, like Miura with this work gave that to me. The idea of like, you need to learn positive self-care for your mental health.
Yeah. So
it's a huge thing to me.
And that video blew up, by the way. I didn't see it until later today. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. I saw it. It came up in my suggested as soon as I woke up this morning. But everything you said is legit, and you know, you have the platform where you can you know, upload something, and maybe somebody that didn't understand what it was like for you know, a mangaka to have that overwhelming, like, you know, the work-life balance. You assume that it should be like in the middle, but for them it's like work is so much heavier, and that's why, you know, it actually makes me really sad that something. So it was a sudden aortic, I forget what the third word is, but basically he had a heart attack. You know, he had a heart attack, and it really sucks that things like that are caused by stress. And chances are that what stressed him to that point is the fact that he still is one of the most in demand artists and writers in his industry. So I can't imagine that everything that he's been through in the last 30 years didn't dissection. Thank you, Mo. I can't imagine that his job isn't what contributed so much to it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it makes me so sad because he made this masterpiece of a story that if it never ends, like you mentioned in your video, Riley, like Volume 40 ends in such a cathartic way that it's like, if it never ends, I'm fine with that. Like if Young Animal never brings anybody up, I would prefer if Young Animal never brought somebody in to, you know, translate whatever notes that Miura had ready to go. I don't know. It's definitely a rough time.
I see a lot of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, a lot of people, and maybe you were gonna say this too, there are a lot of people, the big number one question they're wondering is, you know, what happens next? What are they gonna do? Or is the story gonna continue? And very many times when this has happened, where a creator dies, they don't do that. So I don't have a lot of confidence in that. But right, like, there was such a good, like, when I read Volume 40, when that first came out in the US, I think I expressed, like, holy crap, like, I would be happy. Like, this was such a great volume that just ties so many things together. It brings you that emotional climax that we've been waiting for. Not trying to get into spoilers, but it brings things together in a really good way. And, like, I know there are people who'd be disappointed to know that like it doesn't come to its conclusion, but I think you can draw a bunch of assumptions about certain things, but the main story, the main point of the story, the emotional storyline that's going on with these characters and the issues that they're going through, that really comes to its climax in that volume. And you can feel that like with that, it's kind of was working in towards its ending. And maybe he does have the notes, maybe he did pass information along to assistants, maybe he has people who are able to do things and provide something like, and it'd be cool if there are notes out there. It'd be cool if like they would be published in a way that like can be open for the general, you know, fans and stuff to see, so that we could get an idea of how it would have gone. But if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world, because he gave us all of this material that has influenced so much over the past 3 decades that the series have been running. Not just in manga, not just in comics, but like in so many different media, so many influences coming from this creator.
Here's a comment from Ultimate Power. Thank you, by the way, everybody in the chat for watching. In the Young Animal passing announcement, the picture, the text in it mentions these details about unreleased chapters will be released in the following issues. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of material that has not been published because of just because the series was on a hiatus. The last chapter was in January of this year. Doesn't mean material wasn't being made. So I do suspect we will see a volume 41 being released, because there's at least 6 or 7 chapters that you could put on there.
And there's also that unreleased chapter they could throw into the back. I don't know if you guys know about it. Chapter 83.
Yeah.
You could definitely throw that into the back as like supplemental material.
What I would do, actually, if there are notes, and I'm pretty sure the main, what's the word I'm looking for? The main editor of the magazine would know where the story was headed, because he works hand in hand with the author. Maybe do like a novel and just write that stuff down with select illustrations, and like Riley said, leave it up to the fans to interpret things how they will. Because this reminds me of when Satoshi Kon passed, where it's just a bright light being dimmed down and put out before it had its opportunity to shine even brighter, and leaving things in right in the middle of everything. Just throws a wrench in everybody's plans. So I don't know. I mean, on one hand, you want to think maybe Miura would have wanted his work to continue in some shape or fashion, but I do respect wholeheartedly them not wanting to publish anything. I would be okay with that as well.
100%.
Whatever the choices are, I will be happy. I'm just happy to have had the experience.
Exactly.
I'm just happy to have been able to have read this. And I'm happy that there are, it's not a happy situation, but I'm happy that there are people that in this are being turned on to trying it out. To read this series for the first time. You know, it's bringing a lot of people who, I've seen so many comments coming from people who are like, I just got the first volume. I just started reading it this month or last week or whatever. And a lot of people making comments about like, oh man, like I still haven't read it. It's been something that I've wanted to check out, and now like I have to get into it now. Like, I saw a comment someone made on one of my videos stating like, is it wrong for me to start reading it now because of this? And no, man, this is as good a time as any, better if not, because you're putting the respect on the name of this creator. You're respecting the work, and you are letting his name continue to live on through his work.
There's over 40 volumes of material.
Yep.
There's video games, there's movies, there's anime. There's a lot to consume, and you're going to have a great time with the series, regardless of what happened now. It's still something that you should read. It will stand the test of time as one of the greatest manga ever, in my honest opinion. And we were lucky to live in the same time period as such a master as Kentaro Miura. I mean, the guy worked endlessly on this passion project, this story, from 1989 when it was first published, and now it has such a legacy worldwide. I saw some comic book creators saying like, I guess I really should look into Miura's work because I had no idea. So every day, it's new exposure to new people. So that's great.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I follow some like just regular old fantasy booktubers on Twitter, and one of them even took the time. He tried Berserk Volume 1, and he it wasn't his thing. He didn't understand the manga format, that like one volume of manga is like reading 2 chapters of a book and then tapping out. But he did take the time to say, hey, clearly I was aware of who this man was, and I'm not into manga, but it's okay to mourn, and it's okay to feel like you've lost a friend. And then he compared the experience that the collective fandom is going through to when his favorite author Robert Jordan died, and he was like, there is absolutely no shame in just sitting there and having a sob if you need it, because that's exactly what it felt like. Like I felt myself move to tears multiple times over the course of like an hour and a half between finding out that he died and then going to bed. And screw you, Riley, but as soon as I clicked on your video, I was like, oh no, Riley's making me feel this morning, it's too early. But I was like, like for Kentaro, like I spend a big part of the day just kind of like immersing myself in what everybody was talking about online, like all the different perspectives and all of different people from all over the world, their experiences with the work. And there's that one screenshot going around of the manga panel in like the very, very early Berserk, when Guts is traveling with the man and his daughter in like a cart, and he says he died doing what he loved. So I forget the exact quote, but he's basically talking about how like he's lucky that he was able to die doing what he loved. So it goes back, I feel like that goes right back to celebrating, like Riley said, the fact that we had him for as long as we did, and that he gave us so much work to focus on and so much work to continue to dissect, because I feel like upon every reread, you can always find something new in Berserk to enjoy and hyper focus on and say, wow, like he was a master of his craft from a very young age.
Yep.
Oh yeah. And like, Gio said, what was it, 1989 when it started being published?
Mm-hmm.
So over 30 years. So a good amount more than half of his life. He was 54 years old. So that's like the majority of your life being spent putting together something that like your entire everything of yours goes into this. You put everything into that, and it you feel it when you read it. You feel that from him. But Adonis was saying about like having that wave of emotions and like feeling like having a sob and stuff. I didn't, like last night, I didn't shed a actual tear, but like I felt like I was choking on my own heart. And like if I have to share with you guys the first TikTok where it was just me like reacting and putting out, because I wanted someone to tell me that it was fake. And that's why I put it out there. And I was like, a friend just sent me this, and I've listened to myself in that video so many times, like choking on my own words. Like I could hear the emotion, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I could hear that I was a wreck there. And then I made a few more short things before I filmed that video, and then I went to sleep. And when I woke up, Alex had texted me all the things about like his health and his state, about, every time he said something about, I haven't had a day off in this long. I don't have full days off. I only have half days off. I haven't slept a full night in however long. Like that was when I read that text, waking up in the morning, that was when like I started to shed physical tears. I'm like, oh God, okay, gotta get up, gotta get going. It's another day.
Yeah.
This is what he would have wanted.
It's what he wanted. I mean, look at Guts. The character has never given up and keeps going forward. I think that's a beautiful thing to take away from that book, amongst the many themes of Berserk.
Yeah. There's so many things to take out of it. There's so much to take the themes of it, and to take out of it. Like I had just more recently started to try and like put together notes and information about the comparisons and parallels between Berserk and classical literary epics, and the fact that Berserk, I believe, was in fact intended to be an epic, and just trying to like piecing those things together so that I could have a video about that. And I feel like that video, whenever I do get to make it, is going to hit really differently now. But it just spells out like how there's not a ton of manga that you can do that for. Most of them wear everything on the sleeve. They wear their commentary right on the surface, and there's not as much to dig into. Most are like that, but there are a few that are a lot deeper, and Berserk was one of those. Berserk is very much a very individual piece of literature.
Putting together a little slideshow just so we can go over all the sort of the catalog of material, because it wasn't a whole lot compared to other writers, but it speaks volumes to his craft. So give me 1 second while I'm looking for something here. But yeah, we talked a little bit about Berserk. Riley, you have with you a copy of Gigantamaxia, which was done, if I remember correctly, for the magazine's or his studio's 20th anniversary or something like that. It was only a one-shot, right?
Just the one volume, yeah.
Or one volume, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it was 7 chapters, just about 250 pages worth of material.
Let me highlight you so you can show off some of that art.
Sure, yeah. So there's the cover, 2 main characters on the front. It was published by Dark Horse. I don't remember exactly when it came out. 2014 in Japan, so not that long ago, all things considered. And if you enjoy Berserk, this is something that you'll enjoy. It does have Miura's very detailed and for lack of a better term, epic-looking artwork. Very interesting creatures and stuff throughout this book. It's not the deepest story. It doesn't have the same depth as like Berserk did, but it was definitely something that I was happy to pick up like between volumes, waiting for material to come out just to have something more of his. And I've recommended it a few times. It's definitely mature. It's Miura. You're going to expect that, but it's a fun little book. And I don't know that anything other than this and Berserk are like readily available in English though, of the other work of his. Like the other stuff is like, if it did get an English release, it's like super duper, like King of Wolves before the show that you mentioned, Gio, like Dark Horse did publish it, but like even before this, like I had looked it up a while ago and it was going for stupid prices on eBay. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to pass on that.
Yeah, we'll probably see reprints of that stuff just to honor his legacy. Dark Horse will probably do a different edition or maybe oversized or something. I don't know. Where's the freaking... There it is. All right, so I'm just going to show a couple panels that I found online earlier, just from his many works. This is Futatabi, which came out in 1985. And you can sort of see the evolution of his artwork, if you will, throughout all of this. I don't really know a whole lot about this one, but I am interested in going back and reading about it. But it looks interesting. Of course, 1988, we had the Berserk prototype, which if you own, is it in the second hardcover, or the third one? Which hardcover features that?
I'm not 100% sure. I could check.
I don't remember.
Maybe I'm thinking later down the road. I know it's included in one of the smaller editions and the deluxe hardcovers.
I don't remember it being in the small. I read pretty much the entire thing in the regular tankobons, but I don't remember it being in them. I read it for the first time on the internet, but I could be wrong. It's been a while since I
remember reading it somewhere. I don't know which edition, but I do remember reading it. So you do see a lot of his framework for what would eventually be just Berserk itself. Here's a really awesome panel from King of Wolves, which was also a 1-volume series written by Buronson, which you might know as the mangaka behind Fist of the North Star. That's one of his pen names. Miura was a fan of him and worked under him, and I assume this was an all-star dream moment for him to work under one of his senseis. But you can see a lot of his early work. It was stellar from the get-go, in my opinion.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Here we have, of course, detailed panels. These are just random that I found online of Berserk. And you can just see that beautiful attention to detail where literally panels just look like framed works of art. This happens to be one of my favorites with the dragon.
He was too powerful with a pen, bro.
Yeah. And he would literally say in interviews, like, I take too long because I want to get that right. And I believe inking was his weak point, so it took him longer. And he wanted to get all the details in. And yeah, he was just one of the greats. I mean, with all the classic mangaka from the 70s and 80s, you got to add him to the list as one of the GOATs.
And in his own way, he even like stood the test of time, because up until last year, we were still getting chapters, even in his poor health. I don't know if you've kept up with the individual chapter releases, but that final chapter that came out, like, I think it was back in like November. It's some of his best work when it comes to, like, you see how he improves like in his character design and the way he draws faces. And that one last chapter, I think it was 362 or 3. It's just, in the location that they're in, he just goes completely off. He's like, I'm gonna make this look. This is gonna look like it's straight out of a kid's book that took like 50 people to create, but it was just him and his assistants. It's a fantastic man.
I found it was volume 14 is where the prototype was published in the paperbacks.
Okay,
thank you.
So that means volume 5 would have it of the hardcovers.
Yep.
His I don't know if this was an inspiration of his or not, or if this is on purpose, but some of the images, I think the previous one that you showed, gives me a very heavy vibe from, like, well, that one has a very individual vibe itself, but Gustave Doré, the artist who's popularly done like print for
I know
Paradise Lost and stuff.
Yep.
The heavy inks and just the dramatic angles and stuff. And this one in particular has like a Hieronymus Bosch feel to it, which I have to believe that this was purposefully inspired by Bosch. That one gives me more of the Doré feel. But like there's such like so learned of an artist. Like if I'm not just like pulling that out of my own butt, like dropping those names and stuff, like I believe that he was inspired by actual classical artists, just like I believe he was inspired by classical literature.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Here's the cover for Japan, which came out in 1992, which was also a collaboration between Buronson and Miura. And this was also a 1-volume series, which I suspect is also super out of print. So hopefully
I think so.
These two one-shot volumes get released, maybe in a deluxe hardcover format, so we can enjoy that beautiful artwork a little bit more.
Yeah, the version by Dark Horse right now, the first one that popped up is $80 on eBay.
Damn,
nice.
So this is one of the panels from Gigantomaxia. And this is also from Giganta, right? Yeah. Same character.
He just had such a specific style. It's like it's crazy that this is in between the pages of a comic book,
This looks like H.R. Giger, who from like the Alien movies and stuff like that.
Yep.
There's so many like influences that you can pull, like, and see exactly where he's taking from. likewise to see other people's work and say like, oh man, this person was definitely inspired by Miura.
You know, like the whole trend of big sad anime boys with giant swords. Like we would not have Cloud Strife if we hadn't had Guts First, you know?
Yeah,
The entire
and all the,
Dark Souls and all those games.
All of the entire cosmic horror of Bloodborne, you know, you wouldn't have any of that without Miyazaki reading Berserk at some point in his life.
even the shonen protagonists, Bleach, Black Clover, all of that has Guts-inspired themes running throughout with the big swords. And I believe
the creator of Black Clover came out specifically. It stated like Guts was an inspiration for Asta.
Yep, and it shows. Asta's basically Shonen Jump Berserk.
Right. And did you guys see the tweet from the Hajime no Ippo artist and the story that he told about how he met Miura? He needed some assistance, and Miura just showed up and was like, "Oh hey, look, I have this idea, but I need to get better before I make it real." And then they like worked together. He grew as an artist, and then before he knew it, Berserk started being published, and it was a thing. It's I can't imagine what he must be going through right now, losing one of his best friends, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. So here's the cover for Duranki, which was started being published in 2019, and he sort of served as a executive producer, if you will, and he let his assistants and the people working at the company shine by drawing the series in his style. Obviously, all of them kind of, I would suspect, saw him as a mentor and imitated his art style. So, I do want to read this. It looks awesome. I love the whole Mesopotamia and gods and whatnot theme. I haven't read any of it, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm hoping like you've stated, because the other works of his, there's not that many of them out there besides, like, obviously Berserk is the largest long running one. It would be really nice to get like a Miura deluxe edition hardcover that can sit on the shelf, just like with Berserk and stuff, because King of Wolves, and then it had a sequel, O Roden. Both of those are only one volume. Japan was one volume. Duranki, I think, is just a single volume. Might be like shorter than a single volume. So all these different titles, it would be really amazing to see that published in a single hardcover, this big, 600 page or whatever it takes, so that we can have all of the artwork, all that beautiful work in a nice archival edition.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's sort of a quick look at some of that art in case anybody watching didn't know about Duranki. That's really cool.
So is this one of his assistants that's doing the art there?
I think there's more than one person involved, and he would lend assistance by, I guess, touching up on certain pages, or maybe a pinup or a splash or something. He would draw it, but for the most part, he wanted his team to take full credit for this, to highlight their art, which I thought was really nice. That's a great thing to do as a mentor and creator.
He also there's a snippet of an interview floating around on the internet that I've seen a few times today, where someone is talking about how usually mangaka assistants are poorly paid, and they're part-time, and they're just doing this to try to get some exposure and try to get their name out there. But Miura had lots of assistants that were full-time and that were helping him like constantly, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that makes sense. And some of his assistants, like, they could live their life on the salary that he paid them. Like, his assistants were able to buy homes and live their life and actually care for their families, which I think says a lot about how he treats the people that help him, because I'm assuming that carrying on a series like Berserk with the crazy amount of detail that it had must be super difficult with just on your own without the support of other artists.
Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah. So to sort of round things out, what do you think is the biggest takeaway out of all of this?
I think the statements that I was, pulling out earlier about just paying attention to the health of these creators physically and mentally, and making sure that that we give respect whenever they are taking the breaks that they know that they need. And that was something that hit me really, really heavily, really close to home. And this is where I actually really started to get super emotional a little earlier today in talking to my wife, who, my wife doesn't give two craps about manga or anime, but she listened to me because she knows I care. And I told her he overworked himself. He pretty much worked himself to death. And this was something that I had been doing for the past month, that I was working from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. 7 days a week. And I was not giving myself more than small snippets of breaks to eat a meal or go to the restroom for something that I shouldn't have been doing. I wanted to do a job because it was something where I felt like this is my duty. I need to do this because if I don't, other people won't do it. And there are people that are counting on me. When in reality, that's not my job. My job is to do my job. I shouldn't be working myself to the bone, not having personal time, not having, time with my family, and reading about all the things that he had been going through early in his career and more recently in his career, and knowing what it was that he succumbed to really took me over emotionally. And I told my wife, I had a mental break basically, and that's why I stopped. That's why I was I can't do it. I'm going back to my normal 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock. When I clock out, I clock out. Whatever happens, happens. Because I can't carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. But this dude was doing the same thing, but carrying the weight of the expectations of so many people on his shoulders.
Yeah.
The expectations that we've set on him, that he set up for himself because of that, that the industry has set, that, to think, if I don't get this done, if I don't do this, then I fail the people that I want to do this for. Mm-hmm. And that a little bit of that may be my own interpretation of the situation, but it was something that showed me that my decision that I made recently was more than correct. It was the healthiest thing that I could do for myself, body and mind. And that was the biggest thing that I've unfortunately had to take from this, is knowing when to take care of yourself, knowing when enough is enough, when you're doing something that you have to sometimes step back and know when to take a break, when to rest, when to enjoy life, and not succumb to the expectations that you may have set up honestly for yourself sometimes.
Yeah. Well said, buddy.
There you go. Also, a lot of, and I've been telling you guys, a lot of isekai lately have been about people that have passed on because of they overwork themselves to death. That's a theme in the industry that slowly but surely gets traction. Every time something like this happens, they make a point to tell people this is a thing that needs to be worked on, and it just sucks. Really sucks.
His passing was so sudden that I could not have mentally prepared to wake up yesterday and for someone to say, "Oh, hey, by the way, Kentaro Miura is going to die later today." I would have said, "No, he's not." He with the success that Berserk had, there is no doubt in my mind that if he lived to be 90 years old. If he lived to be older than Stan Lee was, he would have been all set financially. You know, Berserk merch sells, Berserk volumes sell, but at the end of the day, none of that could have prevented what did happen to him. It was so sudden. And earlier in the year, back in February, I had an uncle that passed away very suddenly, and so this is just hammering home like that feeling of like you really don't know how much longer you have with the people that are around you.
Mm-hmm.
And like Riley keeps on saying, let's instead of sitting like, mourn, because if you need to give yourself the time to mourn, you deserve that. It's like losing a friend. It's losing a mentor, some people are calling him. But definitely appreciate the time and the work that you did get from this person. Appreciate that you can always open up your volumes of Berserk and revisit the Golden Age arc. Watch him get off that boat that he was on for so many years, and just appreciate how great of an artist he was, how great of a storyteller he was. Like his art will surpass his art will outlive all of us in the grand scheme of things. He was, without a doubt, he still is one of the greats. And so just focus on that.
Yeah. All that I can say to add to all those beautiful words is, if you're watching this, it's okay to feel what you're feeling, and remember to live life to the fullest. You never know when your day is around the corner. It could be now, it could be months from now, years from now, a decade, who knows? But you got to live to the max and take care of yourself, and with peace and love and all that stuff,
Without a doubt.
So if anybody has any comments or anything, we're going to be on for just a little bit more. Cleveland Brown, if it's that or Truck Kun pays them a visit.
For sure.
Get isekai into one of the thousands of isekai that are out there.
Oh yeah. Right now they're airing like at least 6 that I know of. It's insane.
I'm sure that's just what's getting translated and being put out over here. I can't even imagine how much worse the saturation is in Japan.
Yep. Rob, he's going to be right up there with Tolkien. Definitely.
Oh, he already is, man.
Yeah.
Tolkien was out here showing us building the world by having, Samwise say, "Mr. Frodo, tell me more." But Miura was like, "Nah, let's put Guts right in. Let's Guts is gonna meet some pirates. That's what he's gonna do. So let's just roll with that. We're one piecing this right now."
I don't know if I'd ever have gotten into Berserk with the farm. Thank you. Without the farm.
Same here, Mo. When I tried to get into manga and I was like, okay, well, I like Naruto. Tell me where to go from here. And everybody overwhelmingly, especially in the farm, it was like, Berserk, come talk to us when you're done.
I remember I said this on my channel. I don't know if I've mentioned it here. I remember when no, Joe, don't worry about it. I remember, I think early 2000s or something like that. One of my uncles was big into anime, and not so much manga, more anime. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, he saw all that cool stuff that now are considered classics. Anyways, in the 90s, he had VHS tapes of Berserk in his room, in his media center or whatever, and I was curious about it. And he told me, "Oh no, you can't watch that, because that's for adults, or that's not for kids," or something like that. And for the longest time, I always I knew about Berserk, but I always thought that's something that adults watch. That's not something for kids or teens or something. So I always knew about it, sort of this creepy, dark thing that should not be viewed. But it wasn't until 2017 or something. I don't know if it was because of YouTube or something, which made me revisit the idea of Berserk. I'm like, I remember that. Let me go read it, because I have not watched the anime. Let me read it. And yeah, rest was history. Loved it. Was Miura friends with Ken Akamatsu? I recall reading that years ago. Talk about 2 completely different approaches to manga. I think so. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with.
Love Hina and Negima, I think was the other.
Okay.
Sledge. I thought he passed away. Yes, but that is that
It's essentially a heart attack.
Induced.
Yeah. That was when I had never heard that word, so that was like the first thing that I googled last night. And it was like stress is a huge contributing factor, and it's like, well, goddamn, like
aorta vein or whatever it's called dismembers itself or detaches itself, and the symptoms are very similar to a heart attack, unfortunately.
I had a similar experience. With Berserk, at first it looked like it was something like wow, you gotta really prepare to be emotionally traumatized by this series. I remember reading the first 3 volumes, and my initial thoughts were, wow, this Guts guy is a piece of crap. Like I don't know if I can keep up with this, because in the first 3 volumes, like you really hate Guts, and then everybody was like, dude, just keep going. Like if you make it to, if you feel like you can make it to volume 13 and then come back, and then, you know, if anybody ever makes it to volume 13 and wants to come over to just have a cry, like let me know, because it is simultaneously one of the hardest volumes to finish, but also some of the best storytelling that I've ever come across.
Yeah. And Mo earlier hit the nail on the head when he said, you know, the subject matter that's covered in this is something that's very can be very problematic and not handled well, but it's handled in the most mature way possible in this series. It's handled perfectly. And there's a lot of people that and if you do not want to read something that has the subject matter that is in this book, the very triggering thing, that's fine. If you can't read it, that's fine. But a lot of people just are like, I don't want to because of this. And it's because I think a lot of media don't explore it in a mature way. A lot of media don't cover this in a way where it's like, this thing that happened is the main driving, like one of the main driving factors through the series was exploring the outcome of this stuff that had happened in like the end of the Golden Age arc, and the stuff that happens to Guts towards the beginning of the Golden Age arc. Like, it's the entire point of the series is him dealing with the trauma that comes from these actions. And it's just so perfectly explored and so beautifully explored. And the developments that the characters make along the way are just they're so earned. You know, like it's something that doesn't feel like you were just spoon-fed, like, oh, he's a tough guy, he's gonna get over it, he's fine. No, like there's a journey that's made, and it's not just a journey of I'm gonna go swing my sword around and cut some things in half. Like, it's a journey of like, I have to learn to heal, I have to learn to open up, I have to learn to do this and that to be a better human, to be a better person. And you see that play out. And to see the evolution of Guts as a character when we first meet him to where we see him in Fantasia Island arc is just immense. And it's so beautiful. It's
one of those things too where it's like Guts is the type of person, the rough and tough guy that says many, many times, like at the beginning, like again in those first 3 chapters, he's all about just me, I'll figure it out by myself. And he has to learn to accept other people into his life to help him be better. Like, he would not be where he is without Isidro, as goofy as he can be. What's her name? The little witch girl. I'm blanking on her name. Shirky. She is like, he has his emotional support that he had to build, and he had to let them in. So yeah, not only did he have to acknowledge that he had this trauma that he needs to overcome, but he was like, you know what, I can't do this alone. And that's where his great even like Serpico, is that his name? Serpico, yeah, like even him, like they're not even close, but that's still his boy, that they're traveling together. Obviously there's going to be some connection for him, so Guts has to learn to open up and realize that he isn't alone through all this. And like you said, Riley, like overcoming all this trauma isn't something that is just kind of like, hey, this really crazy traumatizing thing happened. They're gonna be sad for a few chapters, and then before you know it, someone's gonna snap their fingers and they'll be okay. Like, it's all earned through their travels, through their trials, through even something as his treatment of Casca. I don't and I don't like what happened, but I do think that he didn't treat it lightly, if that makes sense.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's not a throwaway. Nothing is a throwaway in this series.
No.
Nothing appears just for the sake of it. There's so many series that do the complete opposite. So many different comics, manga, cartoons, TV shows, whatever, like so many different media that introduce such like heavy subject matter and don't try to really give it the focus that it needs to be given. And that's why a lot of things just like fail for me. I mentioned it recently in a TikTok video about why I kind of stopped being a fan of Invincible and of Robert Kirkman, is because he's very commonly like, he does this kind of thing where he'll introduce something just for the shock value of it and not really give us a great like take the characters through a journey because of this, have an emotional reaction because of this. Something happens, to the characters in his titles, and sometimes it feels like it's just brushed off and forgotten about pretty soon after it happens.
I can agree with that.
So,
and the thing is that the things that are, so as far as like his themes go, like his themes are not throwaway. Like he if he introduces something, he's gonna explore it and he's gonna do it justice. But the things that are arguably throwaway, like his monsters, the man's imagination was insane. Like some of the things that he put, some of the monsters that he drew on the page were just absolutely terrifying. In the Fantasia arc, some of the monsters that they encounter when they go on the little journey within the island, it was like, wow, I am scared for my life right now, and I'm reading this from the pages of a book. I'm pretty sure that was in volume 40. I don't know. The dude was like
on another level.
So talented he was on another level, talented. And sometimes you get mangaka that are great at telling a story, but they might not be the greatest artists. So you just go, you just choose one over the other. Some manga you read because the art is fantastic, but the story is very mid, and you don't have to pick when it comes to Berserk. It is a modern day classic for that reason.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think that it's nice and kind of cathartic to sit here for an hour and just let everything out and talk about it with you guys. And, I let a lot of that out via various things and talking with my wife, but it's always great to have friends to sit down and chat with, who share the same ideas and share the same enjoyment of this thing for us.
Yep.
We share that together, and so it's very nice to have been able to have this. So before signing out, before closing this for the night, do we want to have any final words? Anyone have anything else to mention before I do some outro stuff?
I don't usually plug other people from my circle of friends or you guys or whatever, but I really like, oh gosh, what's his name? Beyond Ghibli. He did a video on Berserk a while ago that I always recommend to people if you're trying to get into the series. It's called Berserk More Than Blood and Guts, something like that. And it's a great analysis on why the series is as famous worldwide as it is. So if you want to check something out a little bit different, I do recommend watching that. And I'm good. I'm just happy that we got to experience such a wonderful creator. And that person's not, I mean, he's gone physically, but he's still there. And you remember that stuff and you move forward and you honor that legacy and you keep reading and enjoying that material, because he would have wanted you to enjoy what was his life's work. So with peace and love, go forward and continue on reading and enjoying the wonderful works of Kentaro Miura.
100%.
And remember to continue feeling the emotions you need to feel. Don't keep them bottled in. You need to feel that stuff. So let's go ahead. I will do the sponsor plug one more time. Thank you so much to InStockTrades.com for sponsoring this channel and this video. InStockTrades.com, where you can buy your collected editions and manga and more for up to 50% off. Loyalty discount if you make a purchase within 8 days of your previous purchase. That's an extra 2% off of your order. Free shipping in the US after $50. And was it on the 31st? We will be giving away a $50 gift card for one lucky viewer. So be sure to tune in to the show on the 31st, 7 p.m. CST, 8 p.m. EST, for anyone out there watching. Thank you so much, guys. Let's round table it. Adonis, where can they find you, sir?
Well, if you want to find me on YouTube, I am over at the Mango and the Champ podcast. It's just Mango and the Champ. And I recently created a new channel for my own little side projects. It's just Mangalorean YT, Mangalorean YouTube. There's nothing. Thanks, buddy. There's nothing up there just yet, but if you just want to hit the follow button, I'd really appreciate it.
Alrighty, and down below, Gio, let us know where we can find you.
You can find me on my channel. That's A Week in Geekdom, where I talk about anime, comics, and manga. Yeah, subscribe if you can. Help a brother out. I'm trying to put something together. I haven't uploaded in ages, but videos coming soon. So subscribe if you want to see more of that stuff. Me talk about anime, manga, comics, all that fun stuff.
And you can find me on the Omnibus Collector, my channel, where you can see what I'm up to. It was a little bit since my previous video. I put a lot of work into that one, so I needed some downtime. And then last night, of course, was my just kind of guttural reaction and discussion about Miura and stuff for about 15 minutes. And I've got a couple things that I just need to film and put together. If anything exciting is coming up, it's basically I'm trying to put together more creator profile type videos. I've got some books on the way from Japan right now that should be delivered by Monday, so that I can do some creator profile videos for like Araki. And I think I have a couple other things coming in, but that's going to be really cool. So make sure to check me out over there. And also, if you want some just quick, usually fun, the past day, a little more somber videos, check me out on TikTok at the Omnibus Collector. Thank you so much, guys, for this roundtable discussion. This is, again, very cathartic. It's amazing to talk to friends about this kind of stuff and help each other get through it. And to everyone out there in the YouTube land watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, everybody.
Have a nice night.